Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, 100 Million Namibia, in collaboration with NANSO, is hosting a one-day discussion event that's part of the Global Pledging Week to End Child Marriage. The discussion will take place on the 5th of December 2024. That's today. And this event aims to create awareness about the prevalence and impact of child marriages as well as other children violations in Namibia, and to examine existing laws regarding child marriage and their effectiveness in protecting children and promoting social justice. To enlighten us more on this, I'm joined by Eveline Namupala, who is the Operations Officer at 100 Million Namibia, as well as Fhillipus Hamunyela, the Vice President of NANSO. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. Welcome to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
How are we doing?
Good, thank you, yourself.
You guys come with a rather solemn mood. It's festive season, huh? And you guys are doing amazing things, of course. Big event taking place today. First and foremost, talk to us about what brought you guys together as 100 Million Namibia and NANSO. Eveline.
So really, we have a standing collaboration already. The Namibian National Students Organization being the largest body that represents children, because largely most of the children are in school, we decided that, you know what, to make sure that we reach out to our constituents, we need to collaborate and make sure that our advocacy reaches the right people. NANSO was obviously the right partner in that regard. Because also of their stance on most of issues regarding children injustices, we truly felt, we truly felt that it was only right that we continue to harness this partnership. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Fhillipus, of course, just talk to us about this partnership, but also looking at the plights of Namibian children on the ground. NANSO, of course, has a very good understanding with your broad reach and branches across the country.
Thank you for the question, Dishishi. I think for us, truly as an organization, and as Eveline has clearly indicated, ours is really advocating for anything that impedes children's right to quality and accessible education.
Absolutely.
And really for us, issues such as child marriage, I think there are many underlying issues that sort of reach the point of child marriage, or that contribute to child marriage.
Yes.
And a lot of it has to do as well with the absence of access to education opportunities in rural areas. These are some of the issues that really contribute to child marriages. And for us as an organization, our stance is clear and loudly so, that we don't, or we stand against everything that's in the way of children being able to access free and quality education.
100% indeed. From 100 Million Namibia perspective, just how concerning is the issue of child marriage in the country?
It's quite concerning, because what you see is that the statistics that even exist currently are only from 2020. Those statistics, that's like 5 years back. It doesn't give a reflection of the current situation. And I think one thing we also need to understand, which is quite concerning, is that child marriage does not only look at formal marriages, right? We're looking at informal unions. You have a 12-year-old in a ghetto with an older man.
Exactly.
And such things are not really catered for, even with the law. And it then brings such problems. We don't know how to even hold people accountable, because people don't understand. There's no awareness.
Yes.
So because of those reasons, it's quite concerning, because you don't actually know the full picture, yet children still suffer.
Very much indeed. Fhillipus, you mentioned, of course, there's always, underlying factors that contribute, that bring us, up until this point. Oftentimes we point out issues such as, culture and tradition, etc. Talk to us about those contributing factors to child marriages here.
Okay, thank you for the question, Dishishi. Just to build on what Eveline said, and those statistics from 2020 are specifically a study that was done by the Ministry of Gender in collaboration with UNFPA. And what that revealed is that some of these underlying issues, for example, are things such as poverty. And as I mentioned, also the lack of education opportunities in rural areas. And this also sort of ties in with child labor.
Yes.
And really these underlying issues, and our stance is always we are pro-cultural beliefs, but we are pro-cultural beliefs that are not harmful to children. And some of the cultural beliefs tend to be harmful to children. And I think as a society, we need to stand against those. But these underlying issues then lead, communities into deciding that it's perhaps best for kids to be married. It's perhaps best for them to look for some sort of employment, which at most is always child exploitation. So really, child marriages is, I think, part of a really bigger problem that we face in society. And that study also sort of revealed that, in the practice of child marriage is mostly common in Zambezi, in Kunene, and looking at the demographic of those particular regions, you tend to see why perhaps that's the reason.
Very much indeed. And I'm glad that you're underscoring the importance of defining it as well, and that child marriage is not necessarily referred to, a formal marriage in a court or in front of a priest or whatever the case may be, but that just living alone may qualify as child marriage. These conversations, are we taking them on a traditional authority level, etc.? Talk to us about the engagements with society, with communities, and the inroads we've made in that regard.
Thank you, Ndishishi. I think as part of the collaboration with 100 Million, the plan is really to, and what we've seen and why we've decided to jump on board as partners, we've seen that there's a lack for awareness. And I think, like you mentioned, particularly the maybe most important people that need to be aware is our traditional authorities. A lot of these acts are perpetuated in rural areas or in areas under the authority or leadership of traditional authorities. So this project really aims, or this campaign really aims at then taking that awareness to the most grassroots of levels. I think as a society, if we have informed traditional leaders, if we have informed members of society, I think we are one step closer to be able to combat this issue. So I think there has been work done. We must acknowledge that, but I think it's not sufficient yet. Right. And I think as a country, we're not where we need to be in terms of tackling the issue of child marriages.
And one way of amplifying, of course, this message is through the one-day discussion event that you're having today. It forms part of the Global Pledging Week to End Child Marriage. Eveline, talk to us about this.
So we're quite excited about this because what we're really trying to do is make sure that we have leaders who are informed. What we noticed is that a lot of it's an issue that seems simple, but we don't understand it. In the Namibian context, what does child marriage actually look like? If we're talking about then ending child marriage in the Namibian context, how do we approach that? It requires leaders who are on board and saying, this is how it looks like, and this is how we can contribute to the fight. Yes. So what we're having is people from the legal fraternity. We're having somebody from the Ombudsman. We're having children parliamentarians. We're having somebody from the civil societies, two of the civil societies that we have identified, and then obviously NANSO on the panel. And we're really just scrutinizing and dissecting what does ending child marriages, what does that look like in the Namibian context? What can we do? What can civil societies do? And obviously then everybody else in the room will then get a chance to pledge to say that we are for the fight and we are on board to fight child marriage in Namibia. Basically, that is the overall picture of it. It's truly just like an information sharing, understanding it, and then moving forward as a collective.
Great stuff. Where is all of this taking place, and what time is it taking place today?
So it's happening at the NYC at 4 p.m.
Fantastic. Fhillipus, of course, what are your hopes from this platform, and of course going forward as well? What are you looking as NANSO to, of course, do about this matter?
So I think our hopes and aspirations, or what we look forward getting out of this, is really looking that through this partnership we can sort of establish a a way forward. For us, that means looking at ways in which we can advocate for. I think sometimes we have a challenge where there is sort of a disconnect in terms of different parties trying to do the same thing, but are not coming together at one table. So we're also hoping through this project or through this campaign, we can sort of create a synergy amongst organizations and civil societies who are both playing a part in sort of combating or trying to solve the issue of child marriages. That's what it
looks like sometimes. Everybody is doing stuff in isolation.
Yeah, absolutely. But on top of that, we really hope that with some of the recommendations we would then make to government and authorities, that there will be an establishment and a gazetted policy that really looks at fighting child marriages. And I think we are now at a place where we need to be more intentional about it. I think a lot has been done, as I've mentioned, but we now need to be more intentional about it, collaborate our efforts to really ensure that in the next few years, the issue of child marriages is something of the past.
Very much indeed. Eveline, Fhillipus, thank you so much for being with us. All the best with today's event and all the best, with tackling this matter. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
There you have it. Eveline Namupala, she's the operations officer at 100 Million Namibia, as well as Fhillipus Hamunyela, Vice President of the Namibian National Students Organization, or NANSO, if you will, talking to us this morning about a one-day discussion event taking place this afternoon at 4 p.m. That is at the National Youth Council offices here in the capital. Of course, they are looking at unpacking how we can end child marriages in the country, and this forms part of the Global Pledging Week to end child marriage. Do stay with us to continue with more interviews right here.